Hey everyone, and welcome back to Holy Roast. It is Rob and Rob today, and so I'll be hosting us today for this great conversation of Holy Roast. And we do encourage you to comment and to like and to share, to engage with us, and let us know who you want to listen to next. We have had some special guests this season, and we have been so fortunate that they have spent some time with us to talk about vocation and call and scripture and everyday life, and today is going to be right in line with that. And so today's special guest is the Reverend Dr. Andrew Pomerville. So thanks for being with us,
Thanks,
Andrew.
Rob. This is exciting. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome. We've had other people from LPTS, Louisville Presbyterian Theological Seminary, with Dr. Persavia Prelo, and she did fantastic. But you're the latest one. And the one in the new space. And so you can hold that over for a little bit.
I appreciate it. And honestly, you guys do such a great job with this podcast. I'm honored to be here, and I always like talking to you. This is fun.
Yeah, this will be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Well, tell us more about who you are. What brought you to Louisville Seminary?
Sure.
What's Louisville Seminary like? If folks are not aware, that is such a fantastic institution.
I think so too.
An academic place here.
They have great students like you, Rob.
They have great students. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. The accolades will come. But
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is it like right now? We are just after graduation, which is a gigantic exhale for everybody. We've had such a celebratory time, and the weekend was just incredible. It was great to see all the accomplishments of our master's students and our doctoral students. Me, personally, I came down from Michigan. Yeah. So I have been here now 3 years next month, completing my third year.
It's been 3 years? Wow.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, I moved here from Elma College, a little Presbyterian school where I served as chaplain and assistant vice president for community engagement and a professor. So this was an amazing place to end up. Yeah. I was not looking necessarily. This was a school I knew quite well. I was on the President's Roundtable with President Pollard. Thought the things that were happening here, especially his whosoever ethic, his sense of response to the world around him, and then the faculty who've been doing that for decades. It's just incredible, incredible. So honored to take the nomination and move down here with my wife, who teaches preschool out in Oldham County, and my two kids who were a senior at the time and a sophomore in high school, both of them. So busy. It was great. Busy.
What's your schedule like post? Graduation now. That's done. I'm sure a huge relief for both students and staff and faculty, right?
It is,
you included? What's that rhythm look like now?
Yeah, it's funny. Someone asked me, well, is it the schedule normally running through the semesters for you as an administrator as well? Yeah. And not really. There's always something going on. Part of my call in this place, I represent the seminary wherever I can, and whoever will invite me. Wonderful places like this. Yep. But I preach a lot, so I am out in the road about 40 Sundays out of the year. Wow. I'm somewhere around the country. This week I'm home because my daughter comes back from school in Scotland, so I'm going to be ready for her to show up. And then after that, back on the road again. So it's really connecting with other churches, other seminaries. And largely, it's getting the word out about what we actually do and how we can better serve the needs of the church.
It's
great partnerships.
That's awesome. 40 weeks of the year, you say?
Thereabouts. I know that feels like a lot, but some of them are close by and near to home. But that's in my last position too as a chaplain. That was part of the gig for the school I was at. They saw the chaplaincy was an extension of the school, and so I was preaching all over the place. It's part I enjoy.
That's super cool. With bagpipes in tow sometimes, right?
Sometimes with bagpipes, it all depends. The worst is when someone calls me up and they'd say they'd like you to participate in worship.
Sure.
And I'm all, of course, I can't wait to be there. And then what, do you have a scripture passage already picked out, or do you want me to give you something in particular? Like, oh, no. We were just hoping you play bagpipes. That is not what I expected. But sometimes.
But thank you for that. Exactly. Where did the bagpipe thing come from, if you don't mind me asking?
No problem. It's always a weird little side thing. So my family's very Scottish.
Yes.
My daughter has been a Highland dancer since she was 4.
Okay.
I love the pipes. We always had pipes growing up at funerals and weddings and things like that. But when I started working at this last school, they were the Scots, the Elma Scots.
Okay.
Every professor could take one class for free every semester.
Yeah.
I really didn't need to take another math class or anything like that. And the bagpipe instructor came to me and said, "Would you want to join our brand new bagpipers?"
Wow!
So it was me showing up and doing that for a number of years, and that's how I got to know it. But I also had to show up to do the concerts and the marching, and you could always tell I looked very much like the non-traditional student. You have a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds, and then me standing there awkwardly trying to march in my kilts. And I just loved it.
That's awesome.
Playing pipes.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's super cool. Every time.
Do you play the pipes?
No, I did not play the pipes. No. There's still take a class. Not Scottish at all, but maybe I've seen Braveheart a few times, so that could help. That could help. That's really cool. Every time you like start playing them in chapel or something at the seminary, I'm like, oh yeah, he does that. And it's always like a shocking, like when you first hear the first chord or note of an organ in a big space, kind of like awakens you. I think the bagpipes have the same kind of way about them.
I do. And we were chatting just a little bit earlier. I was a musician. My mom's a music teacher. I really thought that's what I was actually going to do for the rest of my career. Loved to play instruments and primarily I'm a pianist, guitar player, but the pipes are so unique and different. It was just a trip to get to know them and to continue to explore what you can do with only 9 notes.
Yeah.
That is fun.
Only 9 notes.
Fun. Yeah.
So how, this is sponsored by the Board of Ordained Ministry of the Kentucky Annual Conference, and we talk a lot about vocation and call in here. How did you get the discernment, or what does that look like from you? Because you've been local church pastor before, correct?
Yeah, for a while.
A chaplain, you've been an administrator, now seminary president. Tell me about like God's work in your life along that path.
Yeah, I grew up in a Presbyterian church in Metro Detroit, just out there in Michigan. Loved the local church. Yeah. Had some outstanding people who invested in my life along with a lot of other youth in the church. I thought it was interesting, and my pastor at the time said, "Have you ever considered, doing this?" And I thought about it, but I was so young. Went to college, continued to enjoy what college ministry was, but I did environmental studies, did music. I was very briefly an environmental scientist before doing this thing for going to seminary. Thought that's where I wanted to be. Worked in Alaska. I enjoyed my time up there, but really being around people and the church, that was really where I felt like I was called to go. Yeah. And so for me, I delayed a few years between undergrad and seminary, again, working all over the place, but ended up back as a youth director for a church for a couple of years. The pastor of that church let me explore and try things. He would take me along with him to do hospital visits, to talk about what worship leadership looked like. How do you do, planning in a community with other churches, good ecumenical work. Just really liked the idea of it.
Yeah.
When I went to seminary, though, I still thought maybe I'd do some of the music, maybe I'd stick around in the academic world. And I was in a choir. The choir for my seminary would tour all over the East Coast. And we would go to churches, lead worship, and then occasionally, of course, recruit and fundraise. Yeah. Went to one little church in Connecticut, and the pastor was a recent grad from the seminary, and we were all sitting having coffee beforehand. And he said, "I was in this choir too." And I go, "Oh, great." And so all of us are listening to him, and he says, "But I want you all to listen real carefully. I came to this church, and it was tiny, and it was dying. Yeah. And I had always been told that I should go to an associate pastor job first, then maybe learn and then go on somewhere else. But someone told me, find a church that maybe is a little less traditional in your eyes." And he said, I went to this rural church that was trying to figure out what their identity was in the community. And he said, they let me try things out and listen for the Holy Spirit was leading. We were there a couple of years later, and the church was thriving.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, at the time, nobody else in the choir still remembers this, but for me, it just hit me. I thought, well, maybe small church ministry, that's what I feel called to. Yeah. And that was what I did in my first call. I left seminary and went off to a little rural church in northern Michigan.
That's awesome. So went from there, so have that local church, and then all of a sudden things begin to change, right? Or maybe not change, but perhaps the Spirit continues to lead you in a different direction than rural small church ministry. Tell me about
totally did. Yeah.
Like how did that happen?
Yeah, and I usually tell folks, and I love the idea of talking to people about their call. It's never a straight line. It always feels like there's something else that was, after the fact. It says, "Oh, that makes sense why that happened," but you can't really see it in the moment. For me, northern Michigan, my wife and daughter loved where we are. It was an ecumenical church, ecumenical Presbyterian church. They had that in the sign, which never made much sense to me. But they were the only Protestant church in this area. And so it happened to be on a ski hill in northern Michigan. And you'd have people who were traveling always. So the church would be about half visitors on any given Sunday. But they were from all sorts of backgrounds. It was amazing. So you'd have people who just stumble in and say, "Well, I just want to check it out." I loved the work that we got to do together, my wife and I, and the ministry was vital. I got a call from a church down in East Lansing, Michigan, that was a multi-denominational church as well. So United Methodist Church,
neat, yeah,
PCUSA, United Church of Christ, and American Baptist.
all together.
Yeah. And they've been doing that since 1907.
Oh, wow.
Largest Protestant church in East Lansing, Michigan. And they said, we'd like you to be our senior pastor and come down for this. It's because of the ecumenical work, and after a lot of prayer, and I had a couple interviews with them, I backed out and said, actually, I kind of dig what I'm doing in Northern Michigan. I feel called to small church ministry. And 6 months later, they called back, and they had talked to people that were meaningful in my life, and they all kind of came to me and said, we hear you, but here's why this would be like a small church and what we're looking for right now, and you have this ecumenical bent. We'd like to see what that might resemble with us here.
Yeah.
So I left, and I went down there to East Lansing for about 7 years.
Okay. Yeah.
It's great. Multi-denominational church is a whole another thing. So I would go to all of the middle judicatories for each of the denominations. So I got to know the Methodists. And
for better, for worse, you got the opportunity to do that.
Goodness, that was exhausting. But fun. Fun stuff.
So it brings you to Louisville Seminary. And I love the idea that you just trace through your own journey of this ecumenical, interdenominational, because I think that perfectly suits you, I think, for where Louisville Seminary is at this point. So tell us more about the makeup of Louisville Seminary. Like, you have this strong, as someone who's been around for a few years now there, both as a student and working there barely part-time.
You're doing a lot. That's right. You're doing a lot.
Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun. I love the invitation from Dr. Charles Brockwell, a dear friend who held many positions there, and then asked me to kind of be a part of this conversation too, which I have deeply loved.
Yeah.
But there's a strong Presbyterian background, right, as a part of that, as a proud Presbyterian institution. But also, when I talk with people, they're from all around, all different denominations from around the country, around the world. And I love that. So tell us more about that makeup.
Yeah, Presbyterian school, and one of our, in this kind of collegium of all the Presbyterian schools, we have 9 with a handful of partner schools as well. But we are far more ecumenical than Presbyterian. And I say that as a Presbyterian. We're about 25% Presbyterian students these days. The rest of the folk come to us because of maybe that Reformed Presbyterian background that guides how we do things. But our faculty, our staff, our students, they're there because of the ethos of the institution, because of what we stand for and what we believe. And we are not the same institution as another seminary. We are very clear about what we're trying to do, and what classes are important to us that we require are different than other places. And that matches for a lot of denominations. It's not just, but there are some Presbyterians there, I promised, if any Presbyterians are listening to this right now. But we are very proud of the fact that we are a school for a lot of folks who feel the call.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. I think as I was discerning my own, both employment a little bit, just because of the invitation, but also the entering into a doctor of ministry program. We'll talk about that later on in our conversation today. I think that was a strong pull for me, was like that ethos, and was that like mission, the whosoever identity of the seminary sets it apart from other institutions. And I've come to really enjoy that. But I think some of that, if I can give you flowers in the beginning, and then we'll see what we do with the flowers later, is like, I think that's part of your identity too, right? So how does your identity shape then how you lead, and how you are the president, and you teach alongside, and you are gone 40 weeks all over the world and country? Like, tell me more about that, and how that has shaped and continue to shape your identity.
Yeah, so I was raised, my folks still live in Michigan, but my mother was the one who took us to church. My mom, Presbyterian church growing up. I had a lot of friends who were as a kid does in a small town too, who go to other churches, learned about other places. I thought it was interesting. That kind of gave a little bit of a spark, but the big one for me, my father converted from an independent Baptist background growing up to the Roman Catholic Church when he was in his late 40s. That was incredible to watch happen, but also to understand, watching his own journey of relating to his family members that weren't always supportive of this, his extended family. Trying to explain to my friends why my dad didn't come to church, but why he was going to Mass. My parents are still married, and they have their own way of respecting one another. There was a long conversation about ecumenism that had begun when I was young. As an adult, I saw it kind of blossom, and recognize, as much as I appreciate Reformed theology, and I am pretty happy to be part of the Kirk of Scotland, the Presbyterian Church, and all the things. It is one expression of what God is doing in this world, but it's not the only one. And I think the seminary recognizes that as well. We are not trying to make Presbyterian students or pastors.
Yeah. I love that. And I think what the world needs now is more of that, right? The kind of togetherness, this united way of being, right? And we may have differences and distinctiveness, and I think that's good and beautiful. We should have that. But the way that we live it out and learn and grow together is equally important, right?
I love it. A quick little story, but when I was at the People's Church, that was the name of the multi-denom.
Okay.
One of the other associate pastors who came from a Church of Christ background, and in his tradition, they didn't baptize babies. Dedications maybe, but definitely it was a believer baptism, that kind of string that came from the Restoration movement especially. I, as a Presbyterian, was used to baptizing babies when the parents or someone makes that decision. So what we would do in this multi-denominational setting was have, say, a family comes in with a baby. They would meet with me. I'd explain Reformed understanding of baptism and give them a whole thing. And then literally at the end of the meeting say, and now Pastor Drew is going to come in here and tell you why you shouldn't do that.
Okay, yeah.
And he would pop into the room and say, all right, Andrew told you all about why you should baptize babies. Here's why you need to wait till the child is old enough to make a decision. And at the end, we would tell them, we are not trying to lobby for you to pick one or the other. We want you to understand why both of us believe this, why the church thinks this. But while this is a major issue that people have gone to war over, we believe God will be present with you, and you'll recognize Jesus Christ's presence in the midst of whatever you choose, and we are going to support one another and how that happens. Blew me away. It was one of the coolest things I got to participate in, and that led to messy conversations. We didn't always do things well, but the idea of trying to be together as more important than being doctrinally right. And I know not everyone agrees with that, but that's to me the sense of relationship is always going to trump my sense of trying to convince someone to be reformed.
Yeah, that's so good. And what a way to model it intentionally. Even the ways that, like, with newcomers and new guests, where we may think these are polar opposites, like this is confrontational, because not everybody would be comfortable be like, hey, prove me wrong to this guest, right? But the way that you modeled it was this, hey, we're going to engage together. We want to give you the fullness of what we express here together. And I think, wow, what a healthy way for us to model that as well as we engage in both ecumenical work, but interfaith work, in that wellspring of our togetherness and what it looks like. That's such a beautiful example.
I found in East Lansing was also a college town, and so we had lots of expressions of religious communities. One of my favorite things was meeting with our Islamic center, doing programming together, because the imam at the time, we were good friends. We got together for tea a lot. He, though, was very clear to remind his own members and ours from the church that I served, it's not that we believe the same thing. And please don't try to be so reductionist to say we all believe in this, and so that's why we can be together. He said, actually, there are some things I really believe that are very different than what Andrew believes. I'd say, I don't have a problem saying that out loud, too. I love this man, and I know that he loves me, and God has called us to be in this relationship, to be in community here, and to demonstrate that to the world around us. But it will be a whole lot easier if we continue to value the person and see them as a fellow creation of God, as opposed to arguing about the finer points. And not even finer points, they're big ones. But I think ecumenical and interfaith relationships need to happen with an honesty and integrity, that we are not trying to say they're all the same thing. That's not the case.
We had Dr. Amy Jill Levine on this podcast before, and part of hers was like, please don't water down your Christianity for the sake of me.
Exactly.
Right? And don't water down the Jewish faith either. Like, please don't do that. That's harm, But how do we explore and celebrate our distinctiveness? But we're also, we're walking together here, but we're also saying these are a lot of paths that converge, but there are also some beautiful distinctiveness as part of it. And how do we highlight that together is important. It seems like, to me, and theological education is changing, right? It seems like it's going through something. It's going through something. And a lot of us can't, pinpoint it, and we're maybe tangentially connected to it. And many of us clergy have been to seminary. It's been quite a few years since we've been there. And we may visit for, alumni days or have, dinners with each other. But it's when you walk on campus on some of these folks, you're like, oh, things it seems a little bit different. So can you tell us more about the changing landscape of theological education and perhaps what we are going through all together, and then what's distinctive about the students that are coming into seminary today?
That's a great question. A ton of different things in there.
Yeah.
For me, it's the reality that the folks who are educating and administrators, professors, we were trained by a generation before us, and now there's a generation coming after us. And I don't even mean just age, I just mean the church itself in this particular time.
Yes.
And we're not always responsive to what is going to happen after that next generation. It's hard for me to anticipate what that'll look like for the folks we're training who are going off into the field. 28 years from now, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're doing our best to train what we have. I think the boom of religiosity in our country and just numerical growth with the baby boom itself in the 1950s and 60s has created the sense of theological education that we're still trying to break away from or reclaim. So schools were exploding with people who were coming. Churches were building youth buildings and Christian ed stuff, and you saw church plants that were popping off of churches because they just couldn't keep the capacity. I mean, you got to put a new building somewhere.
Right.
The reality is that about 1967 to 69, at least in the Presbyterian Church, Methodist Church, around that time period, that was really the peak, and we were trying to still reclaim that. I find people who I talk to about the seminary, they remember pastors who were trained by people in that era.
Yeah.
And that's what they expect youth ministry to look like, gendered ministries, men's groups, women's groups, things about what the church should be as a social hub, as a community organizing center. And honestly, we're about 2 generations behind that already. I usually use this when I go off and talk in churches too. The idea that it used to be in that time period, I'd say let's go with the 60s just alone. You might ask a new person in your neighborhood, where do you go to church? Without any sense that was going to be an offensive question, because the assumption is it wasn't about faith. It was just the church itself was a place. It shifts in the 70s and the 80s, and it kind of changes to, do you go to church? As we see this kind of disestablishment, people who lose trust in the institutions, people who are leaving and going to different things. That's really that first generation splitting off. After that, you get into the kind of late 80s, 90s, and almost in the early 2000s, and it's why do you go to church, with the desire to deconstruct things, and the mistrust of what's going on has turned into now of, well, we have to figure out why it happened, and we're going to get to that spiritual trauma that's behind it. To this generation or this time period, when I have people who will ask questions, they're more like, what is a church? They weren't raised by parents or grandparents even there in the church, and when they see a church, it's a unique thing. And I say this with love and respect to churches I've served. Some were a little more traditional, some were a little bit more entrepreneurial and new. None of us really can try to be what we were before, when the Holy Spirit is doing stuff all around us everywhere else.
Yeah, that's hard. That is hard. When we start talking about things like, we're not going to go back,
exactly.
As if we need to or should, right? I mean, because as we learn and study more, maybe it wasn't all as great as we thought it was, right?
We have the seminaries, then, to get to the answer there. It's that we are trying to be responsive, and we will never train every student to know the answer to every question or every challenge they're going to face. But we do hope that gathering together, whether it's online or face-to-face, we are exploring the call with them and hoping that they are listening intently to what God might be asking them to do in this next season. The other little part of it that for me, and I stole this from a friend, he gives me permission on this one to his metaphor. Coming from Michigan, I usually use this one. We know the difference between a blizzard and the winter. In a blizzard, you kind of prepare short term. Like, there's going to be a snowstorm. We have those around here occasionally. Go get some more food, do whatever you have to do. You get ready, but it's going to melt shortly afterwards. You'll get through it as long as you're prepared for this particular episodic problem. For winter, at least where we lived, you put away all your snow stuff and you get out your summer stuff when it's over. Or beforehand, you get really set and get your shovels out and put away the lawnmower, because the season changes, but you will have spring again. It will be back to what you remember. You will have the nice weather. The flowers are going to bloom. As hard as the winter is going to be, it will get back to that. In reality, we're in like an ice age.
Yeah.
An
That's
ice
good.
age, you can go ahead and buckle down and buy the extra milk, but that's only going to last so long.
Yeah.
And you can try to prepare and put things away and get ready for winter, hoping that spring will come. But in reality, that ice age might last a long time. And then where you looked outside before and there was a valley, now there's a lake because a glacier just came through it and melted.
Yeah.
In the church, I think people expect that we're in winter.
Okay.
And that we will get back to those good old days if we just get a new pastor, if we just get a better communication program, if we just do X, Y, Z, it will be like it was before. We'll make some changes, but we're hoping it turns into what we had. I'm convinced that it's more like a seismic change all around us. The ecosystem has changed.
Yes.
And where there once was a church building, now there might be a music venue. Where there once was a gathering in this spot because people had immigrated to this particular neighborhood, this thing, it might be totally different people now, and you're going to have to adjust to thinking about what the church can be in this new landscape. That's what the seminary is trying to figure out.
Well, that's so good. And what a great place of exploration for these students to know that it is changing and it has changed, and we don't need to revert back, but we need to explore where the Spirit is moving us now. And I think as I had conversation with some of your students there at Louisville Pres, they're thinking those sorts of ways. And some of the ways, I'll be honest, I think there's a lament, well, and I don't want to say this, this isn't the seminary. I think this is culture. We were, or their home church, we were sold one thing, but then we learned that that's not there any longer, and it has been in quite some time. But we're living within it, this culture of hearkening back, and it's difficult, right, to come to understand. So when you have conversations with some of our first year students, they're all learning these things and like, oh, I don't know, what this looks like, and I think it's good and beautiful that they have a space in which they're able to explore that. Tell us more about like online versus in person, hybrid. Like, what is the seminary doing to make it accessible and engage in these conversations that matter in a relational way, even though the mode may have changed a little bit?
Yeah, and I think the community around us, I mean, it's just society being a little more anti-intellectualism creeping in there, some mistrust of the church or distrust and some fear. That also impacts how we think about what we're doing and why we're doing it. The way the modalities for teaching, the way that we're delivering theological education certainly has shifted. But in reality, it's the same thing as the being behind kind of a generation. Folks have been doing online teaching in a lot of fields. Folks have been doing hybrid, and let's even go further. Correspondence courses within colleges and community colleges had happened for a long, long time. It seemed as though we in the theological world were holding on to saying embodiment can only look like this, and this is how Christian formation happens or pastoral formation happens. In reality, I think we have to realize our students are living in a world where they are finding relationships that happen not just face to face. They are learning and they are growing and they are seeking out knowledge, not just from the embodied physical space. We are trying to do both at Louisville Seminary. So we definitely have our asynchronous courses that you can take and engage with your professor, but it's not hybrid where it's being recorded at the same simultaneously. We do have some of those classes though, the two that are kind of sneaking in as well, and we have the people who still say, "I want this face to face." That is tough to do all of those.
It has to be.
And we're like every other school. It's a challenge, and I think where we do well is when we partner with other schools and other seminaries, and even other denominations to think about how what are they hoping for their folks that they're training to send off in the field, and can we be a partner with them?
Yeah, that's really good. Oh man, trying to hold three different modalities together has to be a challenge, and it has to be a challenge also not only for the students but professors. I would think, right? Who also came trained into a different way of being, and then all of a sudden being asked to be more flexible or accessible, and that has to be completely different. The way you teach face to face with somebody is different than over a computer or in front of a camera. Or I just keep going back to like the days of COVID and like trying to preach into this camera when you see nobody and they're not interacting, and sometimes class can maybe perhaps feel like that. But also I've taken one just online class, and it was wonderful the ways that the professor tried to engage and try to make it more like an embodied experience. Yes, we're on a screen, but we can see each other. We can work off of one another and what we're expressing and having a conversation and dialogue. And I would say a lot of folks in that class were way better at it than me too. I feel like a dinosaur some days because I'm like, man, this is like. This is nothing to them. In the world of like FaceTime and online conversations, they're well more connected and have the technology and the ability to do it. And it does take us a little bit to catch up.
It is. And I think saying that out loud is okay. And for some folks to even admit, I don't think I want to do this. This might be hard, or this might be something I want to stick with just face-to-face. Or other people are saying, I don't know why you're doing face-to-face. I just want to do this, online or in a different way. I think acknowledging those things and knowing how to pivot appropriately. You're right. Not everyone is trained to do all the things. Yeah. That's not terrible, but it is hard.
Sure.
And I think back when I was a campus minister, so during COVID, same thing. Every school was trying to figure it out as they go. So my particular school during one season had said you can only gather outside, and it can only be groups of 20 or less.
Okay.
We had a chapel program at the time that was doing real well for a school of like 1,200, 1,300 students. You'd have like 100, 120 people coming to worship, which was great on Sunday nights. But we can't have them all together. Yeah. So I was thinking of scrapping it and doing something online. And the students said, no, let's just do 6 different sites around campus with 20 people at a time. All right. So again, sounds like a cool story. Yeah. It was amazing. We didn't have enough musicians, so you can have a band at every one.
Sure, yeah.
So like this one's got like a trumpet and a piano player. This one's got a violinist and drums. And we're going to try to all do the same songs at the same time at different places around campus where you can't see each other. And then we're going to use the same scripture, but we'll have different people reading. We'll try to... We did it once.
Yeah.
And students were talking about, like, this was just beautiful and amazing. And the president of the school was so happy. Like, he gave them the community. And at the end, the leadership, though, all of us were like, oh, never again. That was a nightmare. Yeah. But what we were really still trying to do was replicate what we had previously. And it was so hard to do, as opposed to just acknowledging this is a new landscape. We should try something different. Worship doesn't have to resemble the thing that it was before. And that's the question I want students in seminary to really wrestle with. You don't have to, in spite of someone else's anxiety or worry, you don't have to try to do what they want. Do what God is calling you to do and what the community is natural to do, what's indigenous to that place. Not every church should have an online service.
Sure.
In the same way, not every church should have a building that looks the same or... not everyone should have the same structure. I think different communities look a little bit different.
Yeah, I like that contextualization, and like the incarnation gives us that permission to be able to do that and to dream about what does my particular place, our particular spiritual community have to offer and to engage and to do it well too. I mean, that's part of it. Like the exploration is what do we do well and how do we move into that, because we believe God is allowing us to do that and engaging us and giving us permission. So make it look differently in different places. Yeah. That's super good. Yeah. But it's so hard. I can't imagine logistically also going back to that example.
It was a nightmare.
I would crash out at the end of that.
It was Sunday night, like 9:00 at night too, is when they used to do their services. And then we had to space chairs out. Yeah. Some of the students now who, I mean, they've all graduated, but seeing where they are in the world, using that example of that was community. He said, yeah, but it's not really the way we have to do community all the time. Like,
Yeah, that's good.
Fair.
I'm going to go back to something you said earlier. This kind of anti-intellectualism that we're experiencing as a country. And I'll just say country because I don't know what's going on around the world, to be honest with this. But so country, and you may be well more informed with this. So we're battling that, I think, as probably as a seminary institution, as a church, we're battling that. And culture and where we are today as a country, we are battling that. How do you articulate then, like, and some people would say even, what is the use of seminary now, right? Our churches are in decline. They're never going to go back to the way they were before. No one cares. Just read the Bible. Like we have heard all these things.
Of course,
how do you articulate then the importance and the value of a seminary education now?
Yeah, I'll do the importance as a second part, but the first, the kind of the landscape around us, again, how things have changed. I'll be careful in how political I am in these statements. Yes. But even right now, our federal government in the U.S. is making a push for certain types of degrees, like theology degrees.
Yes.
To explain the ROI. So we are all dealing in the Association of Theological Schools, a move by the federal government to dictate who can receive loans and Title IV funding based off of whether or not the degree will give that student more money in their career than they would have otherwise. It's the actual language is, if someone goes to get a Master's of Divinity, can you prove that they will have more earning power than they would have? Which for all of us, liberal, conservative, progressive, traditional, whatever you want to call it, all of us together are looking at this and saying, this is not why we send people to seminary.
That's right.
This is this kind of capitalistic language of earning power for the degree is so far off from where we want to think about it.
A troubling theological question. Oh, right, troubling.
We are. Yeah. I never thought I'd be aligned with some of the schools and partners and other presidents I've talked to recently. Yeah. But we all look at it and say, this is not why we want our students to matriculate. I think it is a tough argument to live in a world that is saying school is in order to make money, to get a job, to try to explain why seminary needs to continue to happen. I think formation, training, the value of understanding the finer points of your own denomination, but also what do you need to be prepared to minister in this world? We do those things in seminary. We also teach people how to think, how to how to think theologically, and imagine what God is doing in the midst of very difficult and challenging situations. That is a huge benefit. Again, name dropping a little bit. Another one of our Presbyterian seminaries down in Austin Presbyterian, which is Austin might as well be Louisville. We are very similar in a number of things. But one of their seminarians, James Tallarico, is the candidate for Democratic candidate for Senate for Texas. Yeah, he continues to credit his experience. He's a second-year student at Austin. Being a seminary student at Austin Presbyterian has prepared him for this experience.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I want to put that out there for a lot of folks. We have a lot of people who go to seminary who do ministry in different ways. I don't want everyone to run for Senate. Right. But I would say, what does it mean to think about the sovereignty of God, to think about sin and grace and power and the ability to build community across boundaries, the stuff that we do and talk about. Social justice isn't just a paper that you're going to write about or write on. What does it mean to be guided by the Spirit to do these things? And I think in seminary, we have that opportunity to explain and to explore where someone's deep passion might meet the needs of the world, to misquote Buechner. That's why seminary needs to continue. Yeah,
that's so good. You correct yourself how to think theologically, and I think that's true. But I also think it just teaches you how to think. I think that's not wrong.
No, you're right.
I think that's to be able to explore something you deeply care about. Yeah. Right. And yes, theologically is the framework in which we're going to gift the students, but also just the ability to be in a place in which they're formed together to think, to discern, to feel like, what is the Spirit up to now? How should we address this, that, or the other? And I think Tallarico is a perfect example of that, and his ability to articulate, no matter where you may find yourselves in politically, I think you can come to appreciate, man, he's really thinking, you know, and theologically through this worldview, and he's resonating with so many people because he's using the language in which we're familiar with, but also is allowing us to dream. And I think that's part of the seminary education too, allows us to dream differently and to partner with, and I think that's a good and beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, we are also many seminaries like Louisville Presbyterian Theological Seminary. We've existed now for 153 years. We have deep roots, and we've had people who've supported the school for a long time to allow the generations that come after us to have these opportunities. There's something to be said about a seminary that is bringing people in not to give them competencies or to give them training and we do some practicalities, but we're also giving them training for the inevitable difficult questions that they're going to have that we can't necessarily predict. I always joke that I see the Facebook sites in particular. For a long time, there were what I didn't learn in seminary. It's generally pastors griping about, I wish I would have learned this thing or that, and pick your poison, budgeting, HR, plumbing. I said, but what did you learn? Because there is a lot of other things in there that have prepared you for this. We can't do all, but I do think them focusing in on how to be theological in this world is what we do well. And what we don't do, we are not here to fill pulpits. And that's the one I always have a struggle with churches when I have to explain to them. We're not here necessarily to train someone to fill your particular pulpit. We are here to support people who feel called to ministry in a variety of forms. and we want to see what that looks like. And we're going to go with them and see what God does in this new season.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I'm sure you get a lot of questions though from local churches of who, or both questions and griping and concerns and all those things together. You didn't send us the right person, or
Oh,
you
my
didn't.
goodness.
What you didn't prepare them correctly, or
Yep.
something. I'm sure of that.
Just talked with another seminary president. He and I did a talk for a large group, and
Sure.
we both have had the same questions. They said, "Well, you sent us someone, but they weren't ready."
Yeah.
I say, "Well, they weren't ready for your church, and what we have to go back to them is we only have what you send us."
Yes. Yeah.
Folks who say, "Well, this person who came to our church, they didn't grow up in a church like ours. They don't understand how to lead this United Methodist Church or this Presbyterian church." I say, "Yeah, they probably came to it in a different type of a congregation, at least the one you're talking about." And what does that mean? And how do we make sure that relationship doesn't fail from the start?
Yeah.
Because we do have a need. We have a need for leadership in a lot of our denominations.
Yes.
That's just not there. I think though the discernment about maybe we do have leaders out there, but they might be leading us in different directions. That's okay.
Yeah. And how do we view this? Not as because we're giving into that consumeristic. Supply my preacher,
course,
right? And give me a product that comes out of seminary that is perfect. As if like we can accomplish all the things local church asks us to do as local pastors. It's impossible, right?
Absolutely.
That candidate does not exist, and Jesus would not want that candidate to exist anyways, right? That would not be deeply faithful. But how do we come in like partnership together? To form and to engage. I think about, field education students that have come through.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm grateful for my own field ed experience and my own chaplaincy experience, right? That allowed me to grow alongside of what I'm being taught, right? Yes. It's much deeper than just, have I learned Greek and Hebrew and, but how have I been formed to ask good questions?
Yeah.
I think that's very good.
Well, actually, go back to, so I'm on, in different churches every Sunday. That's the 40. I promise I'm not gone the whole week.
Yeah.
But, I'm there to understand the churches and try to bring that back as well. And I think we have so many professors who do that as well at Louisville. Yes. What are the church's biggest fears, biggest challenges? What are the joys? What are the things? Because the seminaries being apart from the local church is to me the biggest problem to fix.
Yeah.
I just want a better partnership and to understand this is what our congregation is facing and what we're thinking about and how we imagine this next season and to share that with our students and faculty and staff. I think that's how we get past this generational kind of chasm that's been hard to overcome.
Yeah. It's a chasm and also a sea change in a way, right?
Yeah.
And because there's so many opportunities coming out that we can lead differently and find our identity more full because of where we're being formed. So I appreciate your knowledge there. So tell me more about United Methodist. So why should we look at LPTS? What is the benefit and uniquely set up for being a student at Louisville Presbyterian Theological Seminary?
I'll say this as someone who served in a United Methodist church for 7 years as a Presbyterian. What I see at Louisville is what I experienced in that multi-denominational church as well. There is a deep respect, love of, and acknowledgement of the traditions that led to your denomination or this denomination particularly in the midst of a school that has a lot of ecumenical leanings. Yeah. Our Methodist students, and not just our United Methodist students, but those from the Methodist traditions who are at LPTS thrive. And I say this, good students, obviously, who are asking good questions, but also they have found a way not just to be their whole selves, but to bring their Methodist theology and sensibilities to make our school better. Yeah. That's the other part. It's not just that what do we have to fill for their needs, but how does it make us a better school? I would be wholly disappointed if we did not have that Methodist connection still. It makes us makes our students that much better pastors and therapists, and the conversations are rich and meaningful. Currently, we have a small handful of United Methodist professors on staff.
Yeah. For the size of the institution, though, it's not small. No, when you look at the scope of it, I mean, there's a pretty good representation of United Methodists there.
Yeah, I think almost 25% of our faculty at this point, which is it's pretty good. And I would say for a United Methodist student, why you would choose Louisville. It's funny, and not every seminary is good for every student. Yes, understand that. I would not be. I would not be a good husband for a lot of other people out there.
Yeah.
I think I'm the right husband for my particular wife.
Yeah.
And I think the seminary is the right seminary for a lot of Methodist students because of our insistence upon a class in a gender, race, and class, our involvement with the Black Church Studies program that is not just an afterthought, knowing that that is part of our identity in who we are, that every student takes classes in the Black Church Studies program is important. Our connection to the marriage and family therapy program that we have, about half of our students are in marriage family therapy degree. That makes a different type of a seminary experience for someone. And so I would say a Methodist student who thinks that those types of things are going to be helpful for them to either broaden their horizon or dig deeper into something that they're passionate about, that makes this a really good option. And we are great with the local church. That's the one that I just can't say enough. That our students do get to still experience and graduated this last weekend.
That's right.
A couple of Methodist students who are heading off, one to be a deacon, one to be a pastor. And
That's right.
It's good stuff.
It's wonderful and proud getting their first appointments and it's so good to celebrate and see how they have been formed so well at Louisville Seminary.
It's great.
And I think just the ability for myself and doctoral program there, the ability to test my Wesleyan beliefs with a room that is predominantly not Methodist is a good and beautiful gift. To be able to know, because there's some things where I've come to really appreciate about the Presbyterian Church or a different Baptist tradition that's represented there. And that's really great. And I learn, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe I am pretty Methodist, when I come out of that. Yeah. And that's also a good thing. Coming from largely United Methodist for my MDiv, institution, there's good and beautiful in its formation there, but not as much testing because majority of people are there, although ecumenical to an extent. But here at Louisville Seminary, there is that ability to do that. And that was one of the pitches I remember Dr. Diane Reistroffer, when she was like really pitching the D-Min program to me, and she was driving somewhere, and she's like, I pulled over, I really need to talk to you, Rob. And, and starts just going on. And I was like, and I found those things to be true, and the relationality of the school, the just the identity as a part of both Presbyterian, but ecumenical, and that push towards what I would say in the Wesleyan tradition, social holiness, right?
Yes, well said.
You see that very intentionally played out in every class I've ever taken, and every conversation I'm having is like, how do we create a more sense of identity, and how do we push ourselves out into the world, right? And I think Louisville Seminary is uniquely doing that, but which I've come to really appreciate, and I think will form really good pastors, practitioners, whatever you want to call them, as they come out this discernment process that it's worth looking at.
I agree. And knowing how much the region and the area makes sense for the United Methodist Church, which I always valued. We are serving a need for our particular part of this country.
Yes.
I think we have a theology that is fully in line with what is expected from training and supporting our United Methodist students. But you mentioned some of those good professors: Diane Reistroffer, Sarah Flannery, Genia Garina Rodriguez.
Yes,
some amazing United Methodist pastors who have published in the denomination and who deeply believe in the denomination, but they're teaching at Louisville Presbyterian for all the reasons that you said. And quite frankly, Louisville Seminary is sometimes easier to say because it's. I don't want to ever be hiding the Presbyterian shirt. It helped to make us who we are and what we do, but we are an ecumenical bunch over there in Alta Vista.
Yeah, that's awesome. Last question until I get to another part of our interview that will be quick and easy and fun.
Sure.
Tell me more about what gives you hope right now. So we've talked a lot about the changing landscape. We've talked a lot about we're not going to go back to where we once were, both as a church, both as students, seminary, academics. I mean, so what gives you hope, both for like seminary theological education and for the church?
There are so many churches that I go visit that have something unique and exciting, and sometimes they don't even know it themselves. But that gives me such hope when I see, they found how to acknowledge that gift that they have, the thing that they're good at, the uniqueness. That is just beautiful. I am spoiled that I get to worship in as many places as I do throughout the country. It's exciting to see that some of the challenges are the same, that we can overcome together, and to see what God is still doing. And then hope for the seminary. This last week in particular, I'll pick on one of our wonderful United Methodist students who graduated. Am I allowed to name drop him?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Marcus Price.
We'll see if he listens to this, right?
Yeah, throw
so
it back at him.
Marcus, if you are watching this, listening to it, we better get a text message.
Yeah,
that you
buy
did
you a
that.
cup of coffee, Marcus, if you hear this.
There
That's
you
good.
go. Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I know. Marcus talked to me just before graduation. So we're taking pictures of graduates. We're all in the chapel and faculty around. He gave his whole story with another student who was sitting there who comes to the United Church of Christ. So not a Presbyterian either.
Sure.
And said to this student, when I came, you were talking about some things that I just didn't understand. And I asked you if you could help me. And she gave him books to read, some things on gender studies that he didn't expect. He got exposed to different people in the church who believe in the same Jesus Christ, who are equally redeemed and loved and understand grace, but safely are in a spot where they're allowed to say, I don't know that. I don't understand where you're coming from. Could you teach me, or how do I learn with you? That's good. Seeing that happen daily is just that gives me hope. And for my own kids who are, my son's 18, my daughter's 20, that's the church I hope that they're walking into and inheriting, and not necessarily trying to become so doctrinally rigid, but people who are curious about what their sisters and brothers are doing and thinking and feeling. That's an incredible thing to do. And it gives me hope that there will be some generation after us that will faithfully respond and hopefully do what God is calling them to do.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you. This has been a wonderful conversation, Andrew. This is a
lot of fun for me.
Been a delight. It's like we're sitting down and having coffee, and that's what we're trying to do here. We have one last segment that we didn't send you in advance. We sent you some of the questions we talked about today, but this is called the Holy Roast portion of Holy Roast. And so this is kind of rapid fire, first thing that comes to your mind, and then you can give us a little explanation, but don't go too long.
So I'll be careful.
This is it.
Right
so first one, if you could instantly master any skill, what would it be?
Flying. I took flight training when I was in Alaska and when I was back in seminary, and then stopped when my daughter was born, and I wish I could still fly today.
Yeah. So not like flapping your own wings, but
no, that'd be something else. No, I mean, like I'd like to have the time, the ability, the money, all the things to go back and get my pilot's license.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you take your coffee or your tea?
Decaf.
Okay.
So I had a heart issue. It's going on 2 years now, and I had to stop drinking caffeine, and so I had to learn how to drink decaf everything. So these days, black but decaf, and that is a whole experience.
Yeah, I'm sure you have to be very particular now about what you're actually drinking because you can't hide it with anything.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah, in the caffeine part. Who is a theologian that can be living or dead that you'd like to have lunch with?
Recently passed away, but Dan Migliori was. I actually had him as a professor. Taught me all that I need to know about Christology. One of his books, Faith Seeking Understanding, I still go back to, but I wish I could still ask him questions that I forgot to ask when I was in seminary 25 years ago. Something like that, 20 plus years ago.
That's great. What is something you would tell your younger self, but they probably wouldn't listen?
Get a haircut sooner.
Okay.
Yeah. I had some bad looks for a while, and it always took me too long to know. That's an honest, quick answer.
No, yeah, very honest. It was right on the spot.
Yeah.
And last one, you are called up to bat. You're in the major leagues, right? Oh, yeah. And the walk-up song starts playing through the stadium. What is the walk-up song?
Baby Elephant Walk. Full orchestra, Baby Elephant Walk coming up. I think everybody will smile a little bit and chuckle.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel awkward and uncomfortable, and that would definitely put me at ease.
That would put you at ease. Yeah, ready to swing the bat. That's awesome. Well, thanks, Andrew. This has been fun.
You too, Rob.
We will also put in our show notes. So thanks for listening, and put in our show notes more information about Louisville Seminary and ways that you can connect with Dr. Pomerville and some other folks there. Admissions, I know there'll be around annual conference coming up here shortly at Christ Church, and so feel free to come ask them some good questions of their experiences and what they offer, what makes it a unique seminary for this time, particularly for our United Methodist beliefs, and how we can form people into our great theological thinkers and dreamers, and I encourage you to do that. If you have any questions about this further than that, and you want to talk to someone for the Board of Ordained Ministry, we would love to have that conversation. And so set up a call with one of us, or talk to Courtney Garrett or Tammy Coleman in the conference office, and they'll connect you with one of us to go have coffee and have these same sorts of conversations about your vocation and your call. Nothing would make us more happy than engaging in these sorts of conversations. So we do hope that you'll do that. So thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Rob. Fun. Have a great rest of the day. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you too.